Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, and welcome to SEM Rushes and Cellularly's webinar on how to improve your Amazon's listings. I'm Dan Saunders. I'm going to be heading up this absolutely insanely brilliant team here today, and we're going to go through some really intricate details, which will hopefully give you all some absolute mind blows. Give us a shout out where you are. Furthest person out there, we'll always give a shout out to. I think last time we got somebody in Sydney. I don't know if we're going to get them again this time, but all shout outs welcome. Any questions, please feel free to head up to the group. One thing I should mention as well is, as we mentioned right at the start, this is powered by SEMrush Cellularly. It's a free Amazon tool that I safely say we all use, and I use on a fairly daily basis, if not all the time. And just by signing up today, you've got a free 60-day access to the tool. So there's going to be a link a little bit later on. None of us are paid by SEMrush. We do all this out of the goodness of our heart, and I think that's everything I could do. I think that's pretty clear that we're not being paid, and this is a really good tool. Is everyone happy with that?
I'm happy with it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, let's crack right into it. I'm going to let everyone else do their introductions, and then Shannon, I'm going to come to you and give you a bit of a big up towards the end, because obviously everybody knows that I should know these people like the back of my hand, know them better than my own family, because I've actually seen them more, but we're going to go into a bit more detail because they can sell themselves a lot better than I can. So Robin, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm Robin. I'm from Marketplace Blueprint, and we specialize in Amazon advertisement and SEO. So
cool. Will?
Very cool. My name's Will. I'm the CEO and founder of Bellavix. We're a full channel management marketing agency focusing on Amazon and Walmart, and excited to be part of this conversation today.
Absolutely fantastic. And Destiny?
Awesome. My name is Destiny Washon. I'm co-founder and CEO of Better AMS. We are focused primarily on scaling Amazon advertising initiatives from sponsored products all the way to DSP.
And of course, I'm Dan Saunders. No one wants to hear from me. I'm just the head of performance marketing at Ingenuity Digital. I'm the UK, who's always behind all these guys in the US. So these guys always find out first, and then I get to talk about it afterwards as well. I want to introduce you all to a newcomer to the group today, Shannon. I decided that I was going to let you talk about yourself because I can only do so much LinkedIn stalking before I sound like I'm just scraping the profile. Really, really interesting background, and I've had a look at the presentation you've got for us all today. I think everyone's going to be absolutely blown away from this. So do you just want to give yourself a quick 5-minute introduction, and then 5-minute, typical British term, just quick introduction, and we can go from there.
Yeah, sure. Can you guys see my screen okay? Does this come through?
Yep.
Perfect.
So yeah, my name is Shannon Roddy. I'm the founder of Marketplace Seller Courses and creator of the Amazon Brand Success Academy. And so I work with brand owners, both emerging and established, to help them launch, grow, and protect their brands on Amazon. So we try to provide a holistic view of Amazon to really empower brand owners and entrepreneurs with the strategies, tools, and resources that they need to be successful. And I've been doing Amazon consulting for about 8 years, and worked with a lot of companies in that time. So, should I dive into the sort of overview, Dan, or do we have a couple other things to cover first?
Yeah, just we'll quickly cover things because I like to give 5 minutes because we know what it's like when people are coming back into to the online world. It's the same as when conferences were face to face, really, isn't it? You always get those stragglers sort of coming back in. Let's give a shout out to where we are. So we've got fellow UK Tom in Surrey. We've got Auburn, California. I'm going to say CA is California, right, guys? British geography doesn't usually go past Northern Islands. Or Canada. Yes, thank you. We've got the Ukraine. We've got Canada, Colorado Springs, Florida, Tuscan, Richmond, another UK, Moldova. Okay, I think we're going to struggle to beat Moldova. Atlanta, Dallas, Poland, and Northern California. Okay, it's really, really far and wide. Cardiff. There we go, Cardiff. We're not going to speak to Cardiff because I'm a big England Rugby Union fan and I'm not friendly with the Welsh at the moment. So, yeah, Shannon, do you want to come into? I'm going to mute myself very shortly after because there's a puppy that's very happy to hear voices. Shannon, do you want to take the way?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And what I'm going to do is just kind of give a high-level overview of some of the most important aspects of Amazon listing optimization. We'll kind of get into the details, but wanted to provide some high-level. Can you guys see the shared screen presentation okay? All right. So the first thing that I want to start off with is just an overview that I call the Amazon flywheel. And basically the way I look at it is this. You want to start with listing optimization. So that's doing the keyword research, optimizing your title, your product features, your images, A+ content, and even video now. Once you optimize to the best of your ability for that initial launch or relaunch in some cases, you want to launch your products by driving targeted traffic. This can be done internally using Amazon campaigns. It can be done using external traffic like social media, Facebook, influencers, whatever. And then you're going to analyze the results. You're going to look at what's converting well, what's not converting. You're going to look at the product reviews. There's different ways that we'll go into that. But basically, you analyze the results, and then you use that data to then make tweaks to your listings and or tweaks to your advertising or your traffic strategy until you get a really nice cycle going where the listings are pretty well optimized, the campaigns are pretty well optimized. It's simply a matter of driving more traffic. Now, success on Amazon is determined differently for every brand, every seller, every product. The way I like to look at the key to success on Amazon is organically ranking for your product's top converting keywords. Because if you can do that, it's basically like free money. It's being at the top of Google if somebody looks for a website. And the benefit is once you get in the top, typically 3 spots, which generate on average 65% of the organic traffic for any given search term, you're more and more likely to stay there simply because as customers search for a term, you show up as being relevant and they can see the social proof from the product reviews. And if they convert on that term that they searched, you're more likely to maintain that high rank. And so we'll talk about, I'm sure, advertising, how that plays into it, everything. But I do think that that's sort of an end goal for a lot of sellers on Amazon. The second high-level principle that I want to cover is what I call the Amazon trifecta. And so this is discoverability plus buyability equals rankability. So discoverability, excuse me, has to do with Amazon's A9 search algorithm and how it knows what keywords your product is relevant for. So discoverability is Amazon's A9 search algorithm discovers your product and then will serve up or show your product to customers searching for those terms. So discoverability really has to do with keyword research and then integrating those keywords into your listing so that customers can discover your product. Now, discovering your product is not enough. They also have to want to buy it. So we then look at the next piece, which is buyability, and that's an optimized listing. And again, that's kind of some of the nitty-gritty details that we'll get into today as a panel. I'm really excited to hear what the expert insight is that everybody else has as well. But again, it's things like optimizing your images, optimizing your product features, your title, and so forth. And the idea is that that then determines your rankability, your organic rank for a specific term. So if a customer searches for a specific term, sees your product, whether it's an advertised search result or an organic search result, clicks on the listing, buys your product, over time, your product will increase an organic rank for that search term.
Now,
Now,
Shannon, sorry to interrupt you there.
Sure.
We're all still just seeing the first screen at the moment. Is that?
Yeah. So let's.
That's perfect. I just wanted to double check because we've just had a couple of people mention that they can only see the first screen, and I just wanted to double check with you just to make sure we were.
Well, we clearly want people to see everything. So this is the Amazon flywheel. Key to success on Amazon. Amazon trifecta. Can you guys see that?
Yep, that's perfect for us.
That's the key. Okay. So plugging right along, what is your unit session percentage? Now, this typically applies if your product is only bought one at a time. If people tend to buy multiples of your product, you might want to actually divide this by your actual conversion rate. So how many units people typically buy. But if you go into your business reports, and a lot of sellers don't even know where that is, but it's vital for determining how well optimized your listing is. And so again, what we're looking at is if we're viewing the business report by child ASIN, we can look at a column called unit session percentage. How many units did you sell per session? And a session is just a visit by an Amazon customer within a 24-hour period. And again, these are sort of average, these are sort of ballpark. It varies by category, it varies by brand awareness. But if we look at it on average conversion rate is anywhere between 5 and 10%, okay? And that means you've got a decent optimized listing. Maybe it has a couple product reviews, but that's sort of a general ballpark, maybe sort of more entry level. Benchmark, what we're really looking for is more of a 10 to 15% conversion rate. Maybe this product has an Amazon Choice badge. Maybe it has more product reviews or better product reviews. And then a strong conversion rate is going to be that 15 to 20%. And that's typically for products that are best sellers in their category or are just more well-known brands. Now, again, you can get conversion rates all the way up to 40 or 50%. That's typically rare. And as you drive more and more diverse traffic, that unit session percentage is likely to go down. But for an initial launch, this is a number that you want to pay attention to of if my conversion rate or unit session percentage is pretty low, I may want to work on listing optimization. So actually leveraging what we're going to talk about in the rest of the webinar today. So again, listing analysis, like I talked about, we're going to optimize, we're going to launch, we're going to analyze. We're going to look at that unit session percentage, right? We're going to look at the conversion rate. How well is my product converting? You can also do some analysis by looking at the product reviews. What are the content of the product reviews? What are people saying about the product? Do they like the product? Do they not like the product? Are there things about the product that they don't understand or aren't using correctly? What is the overall star rating of the product? And so we're going to learn from those product reviews to, again, make changes to the listing so that every customer who visits the listing after that can be better educated and better informed, and hopefully have a better customer experience. And then the last thing is customer questions. This can be both through the buyer-seller messaging as well as customers can ask questions on your detail page. And again, we want to offer what we call pre-customer service, answering questions before they ask so that people don't have to ask those questions or waste time messaging you as the seller, that they're getting all that information in the detail page. So this is all kind of part of our holistic overview. Real basic principle that I kind of want to finish up on. I've typically discovered that 85% of Amazon success is in the setup. And I mean that either if you're launching for the first time or if your products have all kind of been on Amazon for a while and you're kind of going to do a revamp and a relaunch, 85% of that time, money, and energy is up front. It's very front loaded. And the way I kind of look at it is sort of this analogy of launching a rocket, right? You want to start by building the launch pad, making sure you've got all your foundational integrations in place. Whether it's you've got dual fulfillment setups, so you're using Fulfilled by Amazon as well as Fulfilled by Merchant. You've got your customer service pieces in places. You've got your feedback emails in place. You've got alerts set up if anything happens to your listing. That's the foundational stuff that if that breaks, your entire listing or your entire account can go down. The second piece is aiming the rocket. So this is where we look at listing optimization, doing keyword research. If you don't optimize your listing well, you don't aim the rocket, so to speak, you're never going to get to where you really want to go. So that listing optimization really determines how successful your long-term potential can be. And then lastly, starting the ignition, that's running your advertising, your campaigns, or your off Amazon traffic to generate initial sales or additional sales and see where it goes from there. So the last piece that I'm going to just kind of end with and sort of highlight and brag about is one of our content partners, Mindful Goods, run by Danielle Boltzmann. If you watch this whole webinar, even if you get tons of great information, you're like, oh my gosh, it sounds amazing, but I don't know how to do that myself. Mindful Goods does done-for-you content. So they're not an agency or management, but they can create your Amazon listings, your images, write your copy and your titles, and they use the Sellerly Listing Quality Check tool as they finalize all their listings to make sure that everything is in line with Amazon TOS and their best practices. So that's pretty much it. I'm super excited to kind of join the rest of the panel. And now that we've sort of framed the conversation, be able to dive in and actually see what the questions are that people have, as well as I know, Robin, you're going to share some insights from a recent report. But yeah, appreciate you guys giving me an opportunity to kind of do the high level overview.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Shannon. Really appreciate that. Some really interesting details going on there as well. Just quickly from the panel, have you got any questions? Do you want to go to Shannon first, or should we jump right into the questions from the audience?
That's a good question. I haven't had a chance to look at them since I've been
No,
presenting.
it's okay. That's my
I
job.
think we can probably just jump in and go from there. And I know we got a couple other pieces to present and talk about. So
Perfect. And yeah, as you mentioned, we've got quite a lot of data that Cellularly and SEMrush have put together for us to go through, and I think that's going to be very, very valuable for everybody. So let's get through some of the questions that we've got from the audience, just relating to what we've got so far. So Daniel Vardy, did you find it better to drive traffic to the website or to Amazon stores from a paid social account? I know that's probably not directly what we were looking for in there, but in terms of the ranking factors and where the success lies as well. Destiny, obviously, I know you've done a lot of work around the paid social side of this as well, but so is everybody here as well. So does anyone want to jump in on that, or Shannon, Destiny, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just offer my initial 2-cent thought.
Perfect.
It really depends on your goal, right? So again, I believe everybody who has a brand or a product on Amazon should have an e-commerce website, something that you own, that you can control, which is not likely to get shut down, that you're driving traffic to. But the idea of driving off Amazon traffic can be for a lot of reasons. And typically we see it with innovative products where there is little to no SEO keyword research, and you just don't have keywords or advertising that you can use to run traffic to your listing. So in those instances, we find that short 30-second videos that illustrate what your innovative product does, advertised to the correct audience on like Facebook, for example, tend to do really well driving that traffic to Amazon when advertising isn't an option or doesn't seem to work.
Perfect. Does anyone have anything they want to add?
I'll add that, if there can be times where it's appropriate to drive external traffic to Amazon because you're trying to cause conversions to help that listing rank. But like overall, like over a 12-month period, for most companies, it makes more sense for you to drive traffic to your independent website, as long as you've done some CRO testing on it, make sure that it's going to convert at an optimized level, because you're not going, if you can send it to Amazon, it is going to kind of double ding you on the fees. You're going to be paying the ads, and then you're also going to be paying the Amazon fees. So, assuming that your website converts and assuming that you have a website and you're not trying to work this into as part of a ranking strategy, then generally we're going to recommend that external traffic be driven to your e-commerce site. But it can help with listings. And that's one of the nice things about the Cellularly tool is the traffic insight tool can kind of tell you how many backlinks somebody's getting, and it can kind of tell you if they're using PLAs and things to kind of drive traffic to their listings. So that can be helpful as well.
Yeah. If I could just chime in, I think Robin made some really good points, and we do an 80-20 rule at Bellavix. So we recommend 80% of your ad social dollars or search go to your website, retention marketing, a lot of the benefits that Shannon and Robin mentioned, but taking 20% of that budget and pushing it to either a storefront or a product listing is a way to get a competitive advantage, because we know sales velocity is one of the determinant factors to help with product ranking. So if you do have the budget and you have the ability to allocate it, we definitely recommend it as a way to get one up on your competitors.
I think you're on mute, Dan.
Dan's on mute.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
The first
2021 strikes again. We get there. It's 21 strikes at SEMrush. Apologies to everybody for that. But yeah, my everything I was just saying was actually that was really interesting. Thank you, Will, for that. Just going back to Shannon's point about the setup being the majority of the work. Rebecca Bressler has got a question in terms of how can you see where your keywords rank organically on Amazon? Is there a similar tool to AWR Cloud or like Ahrefs like there is for Google?
There's two pieces. Like brand analytics will give you insight to the top 3 products that convert for a keyword, but only if you're in the top 3. There are some third-party tools that do it, that sort of track your organic rank, but you have to remember that the organic rank changes based on where you are in the country, whether you're on desktop or mobile, whether you're on the browser or the app. And I've found that a lot of times, even the good tools, even the best tools, tend to be wrong to some extent. And so there are tools that can kind of generally track that, but at some point, it's just looking at an incognito browser and typing in the keyword and seeing what comes up. You want to make sure you're not logged into your Amazon account, which skews the data. So there's not a perfect way to do it, but there are some tools out there that can track organic rank for keywords and listings to get a general sense of where you are.
I believe most of the tools basically do like IP tracking, and they take an aggregate of all of the data from geographic and mobile and desktop. So if you do use any external tools, it's probably a decent indicator of your overall organic rank. But Shannon, like Shannon said, we always see people reach out of like, why can't I see my own ads here? Why am I ranking terribly? And Amazon is amazing at putting the customer first. So if a customer is continuously looking for a keyword and not converting on that product, they're probably not going to continue to put that product in front of the customer's face. So you have to kind of consider that when you're looking from, you know, your own computer.
Sorry, I saw Robin look like she was about to jump in and say something. I thought, should I just take that breath and just let her go with it, or that's just me over assuming on those?
No, I was kind of like debating because, like, so I 100%. You do have to take everything with a grain of salt, and I just wanted to add, this doesn't just extend to your keyword ranking. It also extends to buy box percentage. I know the buy box, people have been having some trouble with it lately, and so people say, I looked and I saw this. You really need to go to what Shannon said and look at the unit session percentage. I hesitated because it's a little off topic, but it's kind of the same, that it's there's some data on Amazon that's really fuzzy, and keyword ranking positions are something that is it's kind of fuzzy math. And so you really need to kind of take a little bit more of an even keeled, grain of salt kind of approach with it.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those where when you're trying to forecast data as well, using keyword, using the SERPs and then using the keyword opportunities as well, it just becomes a little bit of a nightmare at the moment. But like you said, it's one of the more useful things. I know when COVID hit and my my Amazon homepage just got skewed completely. Normally, it's got things that I actually wanted right in front of me, and then all of a sudden it was, freeze-dried coffee. It's like, I have never ordered freeze-dried coffee in my life. Why would I need that? It's I'm a tea drinker. Come on, I'm British, is what we do. Just going back onto some of the questions as well. So I've got two parts here from Daniel Vardy again as well. So the first part, I'm going to go to Destiny for. Amazon seems to place higher priority on ads, placing them at the top of organic listings. Would you recommend always having paid campaigns to drive the orders? And then the second part, I'm going to go back to actually Shannon, Robin, or Will, whoever wants to jump on it. If you have a brand or third-party seller, how can you report just sales you make from your buy box as well? So Destiny, I'll let you answer the first part, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course. So this is pretty contextual based on a few things, like what your goals are. But what the question I usually get is, if I'm ranking #1 organically, do I still run ads? And you answered it yourself. The first thing a customer is going to see for any search term is the headline search ad. With custom imagery, that headline search ad is now 50% larger. And then directly below that, you typically see 3 to 4 sponsored product placements. Now, we do run specific strategies where we take our #1 keyword, we run sponsored products, targeting exact match that keyword, and then we'll do a really high top of search increase to make sure we are winning that placement 95% of the time. Super easy strategy to run. That being said, we know we're probably going to take a loss on that keyword, because if it's our #1 keyword, it's going to be very expensive. And if we don't convert well, that can hurt us elsewhere. So yes, we typically recommend still running ads no matter where we're organically and for our top keywords, but you go into it knowing that your KPIs are probably going to be different. They may be much more expensive. You may lose money. So if you don't want to lose money on it, take your foot off the gas and maybe lower your bids, and then you're going to win page 2 and page 3, but you'll convert higher. So I kind of just recommend testing to see what that threshold is and whether or not it's worth it to try to compete for those placements.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Will,
Can I chime
Robin,
in on that?
Yes, thank you very much. I couldn't
just
decide
to
who wanted
add-
to go first. Everyone sort of was like on the edge of the seats, ready to pounce on that one.
Yeah, just to bring up some additional context to Destiny's point with advertising driving or needing to advertise. I think it's important to consider advertising in the context of SEO. And a benefit that ads do, it allows us to train Amazon search algorithm to show these are keywords we convert for that'll lead to organic sales. So like a rough metric we have is one ad sale is going to be worth free organic sales over the course of a 6-month period. So keeping that information in mind and setting reasonable ACoS targets, understanding that you might need to operate at a loss for a particular keyword in order to get that organic ranking, and in order to train Amazon's algorithm to say, this is a very relevant search term, and we do in fact convert on this search term, and then what that means in the long run. So just adding some context there.
Yeah, that's really important. I think a lot of people miss out. They focus so much on ACoS, your acquired cost of sale, and forget about what we kind of refer to as TACoS, the total acquired cost of sale, how your paid ads impact your organic ranking and sales, which on Google it doesn't. For example, you could spend $1 million on Google ads and then turn them off and all your sales dry up. But on Amazon, because it has an impact, you actually, and I think that kind of plays into the organic ranking aspect of it. If you look at your increase in ad spend and you correlating or get a correlating or corresponding increase in organic sales, guess what that means? It means you're organically ranking for keywords, because those organic sales don't come from somewhere else. They come from a direct impact of your product ranking higher somewhere. So, we had a client that was doing, maybe $3,500 a month, and they were spending, $300 in advertising. Well, we increased the advertising, and now we're up to, $12,000, dollars a month in overall revenue. And it's because we're seeing an increase in the ad sales, but we're also seeing an increase in the organic.
And I just want to make sure we really highlight what Destiny said, because it's really, really smart. And for such a long time, advertising on Amazon was so cheap. It was just, how can I get the best ACoS? How can I get the best ACoS? Now that the platform is maturing and there's more ad types that are available, it's really important that you not just always focus on ACoS, but you look at having a combination of defensive and offensive strategies that you're integrating into your advertising strategy. And that's really what Destiny is pointing to, is that there's some words that we're bidding on because we're defending that space. And there's some keywords and some campaigns that are really geared towards ramping up profitability and revenue. So understanding how those work together and how you can kind of take some of the loss in there and look when you're looking at your TACoS, to really, which is your total ACoS, that can help you really understand how those are really moving the needle for you.
And I mean, just adding to that point as well, if anyone is really interested in seeing the latest in terms of Amazon display ads, paid social ads, etc., make sure you follow all these guys. Let's make sure we're gender correct here on their LinkedIn and their respective Twitters. I mean, Destiny, I tend to see on your LinkedIn comes up on quite a lot for mine. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I've missed that. But again, it's the case that the UK, we're a good 6 months behind getting whatever's rolled out in the US. So anybody that's looking for that, all of the social profiles are on SEMrush's and Cellularly's page. I cannot recommend following these guys enough. And again, none of them pay me. I'm just saying this is where I get my information from. So there you go as well. We've got time for a few more questions just on this section. Please make sure you keep your questions coming in, because we will make sure we get to them as well. But one thing I'm very conscious is that I want to make sure we get through some of the data that Cellularly and SEMrush put together, because I think that's going to be really insightful and actually answer quite a lot of your questions as well. Sophia has asked us a question about the notifications we mentioned when we set up I'll get my teeth in properly. Start again. It's actually coming up to 6:30 in the evening. I've been up since 4:30 with a very crying baby, which you can probably hear in the background. So I do apologize, everybody. So Sophia has said, you mentioned notifications set up in case something happens to the listings. How is that done? Now, from my side of things, obviously you've got your rank tracker in Cellularly. So it'll become notified whenever something happens to your listings or with your competitors as well. I'm going to then throw this back out to the rest of the panel, because they are very, very knowledgeable on this, because we've had a very similar question like this before, and I'm still waiting for Robin's absolutely amazing metaphors to just sort of knock us out of the park.
Oh, I
No
feel
pressure.
bad. I don't have a metaphor, but I was going to say Seller Leads listing protection tool now will track, I think it's title and images and maybe bullets. I'm not sure. So if you put what you want to track in there, if it changes, you can set up SMS and email notifications. And that's fairly new to the product. So go back and check that out. And then, there's always like Mechanical Turks where you have somebody on your team that goes through and checks listings. That obviously only works with like a smaller product mix. Like we have a client that has 8,000 products. It doesn't necessarily make sense to have somebody check each one of those every day.
And if you're having issues with contributorship, it usually points to brand registry. So if you are brand registry, you'll go to brand services and you'll file tickets with those teams to resolve any contributorship issues. And that's how they reference it on the back end if you submit a case.
Perfect. Right. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Robin to take us through some of the research that we've had put together for us. Again, please feel free to fire any of your questions through during. We'll make sure that we make time at the end of this to go through them all for you. But yeah, Robin, do you want to take us away with some of the research that Seller Leads put together for us?
Yeah, so Seller Leads got some really exciting data that they have that they just shared, and I had them take some of like the most important pieces and kind of put it into a graphic. And so we can kind of talk a little bit about this. And so what they did is they compared, say, let's take the top 100, the best-selling rank items, that the top 100 category, the listings that are doing the best. And then we're going to take that and then we're going to compare that to kind of a random sampling of just regular listings in all sorts of different positions in the SERPs. And let's see, what is the difference between what the best-selling ranking items are doing and what, just a kind of a random sampling was doing. So we can kind of identify some of the winning strategies that are really working. Now, I kind of want to add a little bit of a caveat that, some of the items that are in the best, in like top BSR positions are there because they have a lot of brand search volume. So sometimes I'll get a small brand that says, you told me I need to do X, Y, and Z, but I looked at Lego and Lego's not doing any of that. Well, Lego doesn't have to do any of that because Lego could just put Lego 5161 and that product would still sell because there's still enough people looking for the model number of that product. That's all. They wouldn't even have to really put up a picture. It would automatically sell. So the bigger your brand, the more you can get away with kind of a lower level of optimization, but optimizing it fully on Amazon can help you maximize your revenue. So one of the things that there was a difference was in with the brand beginning the title with the brand. I know in private label circles this can be kind of a point of contention, and I think that Destiny would probably point to that with a big brand like Lego, their most important keyword is Lego. So yes, that should be the first keyword. If you just made up your brand yesterday, then it's not going to have the same juice. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. But you could see here 80% compared to 75%. And there were a couple categories where there was a really big difference. So for example, in health and household, the non-best-selling listings were about 58%, where the best-selling were at 72. So there are some here that have some pretty big differences. And I would take a look at these things and look at your category. And some categories are younger, they're a little less sophisticated, not because the products aren't just as great, but just because there's just new adoption happening to Amazon. So, if we have a couple products that are in automotive and there's just less competitions that's really actively doing listing optimization in that. So the bar is a little bit easier to get over. So look at this, and if you see where there's a big discrepancy in your category, say you want to be listening. It's like there's an opportunity right there. That's where I can jump the line. And then when we looked at uploading had images with pixels that were at least 1,000 on the longest side. This is going to be really important because your images will not zoom unless you get to that point. So if you're having some trouble with your conversion, this is one of the first places you want to look at is your images, and the quality of your images isn't obviously taken into account here, but having that zoom and having quality images is a big difference. You can see here 88% versus 80%. So I thought that data was kind of interesting.
Quick question. Not maybe kind of a question. As of like today, I noticed in the supplement space, instead of doing a zoomed first image, they're actually showing just like a 2x the first image on the main listing. Like it's so big, you can't even see the bullet points. So that is a fantastic call out, because if Amazon's doing away with zoom and automatically making it 2x, you better have a really good first image.
Yeah, I've always said, oh, sorry.
No,
Robin,
you go.
I've always said that, if you were selling like running trainers on Amazon, you've got to have that level of picture that people can see what the material's made out of. You can be able to see the breathing points in the running trainer. That's always been one of the key points. And I think this is some really interesting data, especially Destiny, what you mentioned earlier about the videos in use, and even in all the lifestyle brands where it's the in-action shots where they tend to be getting a lot more of a click-through rather than just the typical. I mean, obviously, we all have to follow the guidelines as best as we possibly can, but where we've got the action shots and the videos of the product being actually in use, I've seen such a dramatic turnaround in the SERPs. It's absolutely amazing. Sorry, Robin, I cut you off before.
Oh no, this is your show. I'm just here to. I was going to say that I kind of went out of order here. They had the title here first. And I don't think it's going to be a surprise to many of us that cell phones, accessories, and computers and electronics, they had longer titles. And you can see that really is going to make sense. If you look at the median titles, length of titles here, we see that there's a couple categories that have excessively long titles. But when you look at that, it goes hand in hand with they're going to have model numbers, compatibility things that need to be put in there. So you can kind of take a look. And when we saw here is that the best-selling listings, the average title length was actually a little bit shorter. I know that there can be kind of a tendency to want to maximize every word in a title, but we found that once you get past a certain point, it just starts to appear as a paragraph, and it can start to impede readability. Anybody who's been doing Amazon for more than 20 minutes knows that FBA makes a difference. Here's data that shows you FBA actually makes a difference here. You can see 82% of non-BSR offers had an FBA offer compared to 93.64 of the best-selling rank. So if you've been toying with, is FBA worth it? Unless you have, you're selling anvils, cement anvils, this is something to really consider. And then A+ content was also a dramatic difference. And you can look by category and get an idea of, which categories don't have A+ content. I can give you an idea of where there's a lot of opportunity. 70% to 91%, which is a giant difference. So really interesting. And one of the things that I thought was most interesting is we kind of tend within our agency to do longer bullets. We don't want to have toll story, but we do want to make sure that we're maximizing that space. And you can see this actually goes against what the style guideline is. And it recommend most of the best-selling listings actually had longer titles compared to the non-best-selling titles. Not non-best-selling listings. So I thought that was really interesting and something to point out because I know that can kind of go back and forth within the community about what the kind of the recommendations are. And then, we see that, bullets are pretty much across the board with the exception of clothing, shoes, and jewelry, which makes sense. They need lots of images and some sports and outdoors. And I think that was the big ones. I wasn't sure how fast you wanted me to go through those, Dan.
That's really perfect for me. One thing that actually someone's mentioned in the comments that it's just really struck me, and I'm just trying to find through the data. We could take back to the old days when Amazon was actually just a bookstore. And I'm just trying to see, trying to sift through the data because it's just reminded me that we still sell quite a few books through Amazon. I was just seeing if there was any data in relation to that. But yeah, this, especially in terms of where we are with the listings, because to me, it's been very much like in terms of typical where Google stood in terms of your H1s and your H2s. It was make sure you had all the correct data in there. But what we can see here, it's shorter, it's to the point, and we're getting more of a return on the basis of that. So that's really, really interesting data to come across there. And I love how it's all been styled out because this is all stuff that I guess everyone here on the panel sort of takes for granted and we've just known, but to have that data in front of us, it's really, really powerful.
It was really cool to see it and to be able to kind of, it's like, okay, we always tell people this, but now we have the data outside of anecdotally our, 30, 40, 50, 60 clients that we are managing at any given point in time, it's to be able to say, okay, look, this is something that we're able to see over a large number, a much, much larger sampling.
Well, and one of the things, like Robin, in regards to beginning the title with the brand, I always urge clients to always include your brand at the beginning of the title if you want to build brand awareness and brand equity. If it shows up in search results, you want people seeing your brand over and over again. And at the same time, we have clients that, there's sort of this theory or belief, well, like if you have your SEO keywords at the beginning of the title and like don't have a brand, then maybe you're going to rank higher. But I think there's a trade-off there again. And we've seen situations where the client didn't put the brand name at the front and Amazon put it there anyways. Amazon's algorithm now knows what your brand name is because it's listed with the product. And if it's not at the beginning of the title, Amazon's just going to force it. So there's a trade-off there when it comes to something like length of title, for example. There is a high correlation, but it's not necessarily causation. If all the bestsellers have longer titles or shorter titles, it's a correlation. It doesn't mean, they're a bestseller because they had a shorter title or a longer title. And we have brands that really have a minimal approach. Very short one-line product features, very short product titles that only include our primary SEO keyword term that we're targeting. And they just convert extremely well because they're simple. They fit the audience. They fit the brand. And so I think there's sort of always that balance people have to take into account of how many keywords we sort of like stuff into our title versus maybe we include less keywords in the title, but we include value propositions that are unique to our brand. The goal that I want to state for everybody watching is don't simply take the data and look at the bestsellers and try to reverse engineer it and just trade out their brand name for your private label, your brand name. It's not going to work. I think you're better off taking time to discover what makes your brand or product unique and, finding ways to stand out by showing personality of the brand or the company or whatever through the listings. That's actually what's going to help you be successful because otherwise you wind up kind of blending in and looking like everybody else.
And that's a very major point, like you said, in terms of what the SERPs are looking like at the moment in time. Standing out is a big thing. And I think with the addition of video coming into the content, that is a major leap forward. And it goes with exactly what you're saying at the moment, Shannon. It was, if you were going through the SERPs and you just look like everybody else and it's just this all very much of a muchness, that's the way to stand out, and that's how you get your product sold as well. Sorry again, Robin, I look like I just cut you straight up there. I do apologize.
No, I was just going to say that sometimes you have to balance. So when you're doing your listing optimization, sometimes people just focus on how can I maximize the amount of traffic? So how can I index for the most number of terms? Your listing's doing two things. We're trying to get the traffic to your site or to your page, and then we're also trying to convert that traffic. So there's a point where you're in trying to maximize all of the words you're indexing for, you're reducing conversion because it comes across as spammy or cheap or too much. And so you do want to be thinking about those two, sometimes competing objectives as you're crafting those listings and really focusing on making every word count.
I couldn't have said it better, Robin. Great way to frame that up. It's really, really important. So yeah, kudos.
There's very few wordsmiths when it comes to Amazon retail, but Robin always finds something that just really shakes the core. You missed it in terms of your Amazon appeal. Anyone that wants to watch that in the last episode, is my favorite analogy, and I still use it to this day as well. So
and just steal stuff.
Just steal. That's what I do. It's like, I take what the US are doing and say, "Oh, look what I've discovered." So I'm 6 months ahead of the rest of the UK just by following what you guys are doing. Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Everybody, are we ready to jump back into some questions from the audience? Because I'm looking at it here and my screen has been completely flooded. So I'm going to try and generalize some of them up. So we've got 4 or 5 asking about Amazon reports. And I appreciate we've not been talking much about reporting, but I think because we've got quite a few questions on this about how do we make the reporting easier, what are the key points that we look for as well. If everyone could just sort of go through what their favorite method of reporting is, and then we can get back into the questions relating to the data, because I feel there's a lot of hunger for getting the Amazon report right at the moment. Shannon, do you want to fire us off on that?
Sure. Are there specific aspects of reporting? Because I think it depends.
Yeah.
If people are looking for like for example, one of the things that people have a hard time is figuring out what all the fees are and what am I actually taking home? Like, am I actually making or losing money on Amazon? We currently use a tool called Seller Scale, where it can integrate with your Amazon account. It can integrate with advertising. You put in your cost of goods. You put in even overhead for Amazon. So if you have paid services or whatever, you can add those in, and it'll give you a breakdown of your cost of goods and sort of per SKU level profitability, as well as your A costs and your tacos and everything. So from that standpoint, but is there others outside of the reporting as well?
Yeah, so the main question is about how to make it less. I think actually Daniel Vardy's probably hit the nail on the head. How do we make reporting less painful for Amazon? I remember, I'm just going to go back into when I first started out and I saw what the old school reports were. I mean, this is sort of circa 2012, what the reports looked like then. I mean, versus what we've got now. I mean, it's again me showing my age there, but. Yeah, I think in terms of less of the pain, it goes back to Shannon's point. It's more about what does your board want to see on the back of this? You know, what are you being targeted on? Because there's so many different functionalities of the Amazon report. It's a lot more advanced than it used to be. It's not the same as you would for exporting, say, Google Ads or Google Analytics account, but it's got more in the sense of if your higher ups only care about ACoS, you can just show them what the ACoS is. You want to show what the ROAS is, or what my bosses only ever cared about, how many sales did we make, and you can just break it down off the back of that. For me, before I hand over to the rest of the team, it's a case of knowing what your higher ups want you to report on, and then being able to filter those functions out, and then keeping an eye on those as well. I'll hand over to anybody that wants to sort of take up from there. If anyone's got any different style of reporting methods, anyone that thinks I'm an idiot and I should now be banned from the webinar series.
Definitely not.
Excellent. That's good. That's always a good way to justify yourself. Just put everyone else on live television. Just say, am I worth what I'm doing?
Yeah, but I think you had some good points. I'm sorry to mean to interrupt, but knowing your KPIs, because it's always different, and then being results driven. We love our partners to get into the weeds, and it definitely helps with formulating strategies. But at the end of the day, it's more important to figure out and be measured on what metric we're trying to influence, whether it's more sessions, better conversion rate, more total sales, and then just kind of understanding the different pieces that fit into that. At Bellavix, we do custom reporting, and we have a dashboard we build out with the clients that we use. And part of our first 30 days of working together is understanding how are you measured for success, and how can we report that in the easiest, simple method possible. But there's all types of people who need all types of data. So I guess it's hard to come up with a blanket approach.
I once had a client that targeted solely on reviews, and that was literally how they didn't care how many sales they made, they didn't care what their ACoS was. They just sort of, we'd say, oh, actually we need this budget for the PPC, and so yeah, sure, that's fine. How's this going to get as better as reviews? And that's how I sort of filter everything back. Actually, that does lead us into another question, funnily enough. How important are reviews in terms of your optimization? I think that we can filter that together, because it's very, very heavily dependent on your products. In my experience, it used to be the case of blanket, the most reviews the better, and as long as they were around 4-star you were fine. But I tend to find now, variant on products, that it does have a varying level of importance as well. And I think that's something that when we looked into the data that Sellers provided, that was something that really caught my eye. It was more around content than reviews. There seems to be the leveraging factor now. Robin, do you want to chime on that one?
Well, kind of go back to the reporting piece. I would say the best way to kind of reduce pain when it comes to doing your Amazon reporting is probably a lot of Advil and vodka. But
there's your quote right there. That we had confession last, and now it's Advil and vodka. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Well, they say that there's lies, damn lies, and statistics. So you have to remember that any data, if people think like, "Ooh, this is a graph, so this must mean it's absolute truth." Graphs can be manipulated. So you can stretch the data out, you can stretch the data up. So, it's really looking at the data within context. Kind of like with what Will does, we use kind of like a combination of like our proprietary stuff and some Google Data Studio. There's third-party tools that you can use. But, it really, like Dan said, it is about making sure that you understand what your stakeholders are important. We really look at profitability. Since we started as resellers, we know how cash flow intensive this business can be. So we really want to look at profitability analysis. And then we also want to look at things, you should be looking at tacos, you should be looking at revenue. And then you should also be looking at like things like unit session percentage, if we're just kind of giving like specific data points that we're looking at. Watching your IPI, because that can tell you how your inventory stocking is going. These are kind of things that you can do. And then using things like split testing, the smaller the product mix, usually the more we're going to be doing more fine tuning testing. If you have 8,000 products, it's a little bit difficult to A/B test every title, but you can test like, here's the stakeholder for this category or for this kind of grouping of products, and then apply that out to the additional products. So, it kind of depends on where you're at. And if you're only going to measure a couple of data points, you should be looking at voice of the customer every week, if not twice a week, buy box percentage, and tacos. I mean, if you're looking at that, you're still missing out, but at least it's someplace. If you get hives every time you look at the reports, those are a couple of like low stress numbers that you can start with. With the review kind of thing, I would say, as I tell people, if you have an underwater basket weaving kit for double amputees, you probably don't need any reviews, because you're probably only underwater double amputee basket weaving kit on the market. So since, the more competition you have, the more reviews you have. If you have a blue iPhone case, you're going to need 4,000 reviews in order to really be competitive and have your ads run at an optimal level. So the more competition that those reviews provide, that proof of concept to your customers. So we want to use ERP, Early Reviewer Program, $60, first 5 reviews, awesome program. Vine, because you can't offer incentivized reviews for free products unless you're Amazon. And then I would say the last one is that request a review button. Use that button. Oh, that button's great. I love that button. So make sure you're using that button. There are tools that will like ding, ding, ding for you. But those are some of the things that I would be looking at on reviews. And we usually tell people 5 to 10. If you haven't taken Amazon's free advertising course, in the Google Amazon Learning Console, there's certifications. You can be like, I'm certified in Amazon. And so in there, they say they recommend 25 reviews, but I don't know if I've ever started running ads at 25. Do you wait to get 25 to start ads?
I do not.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the platform has changed. When Amazon took away the ability to ask for a few reviews, give away a few products, all that changed. Now we can drive traffic to products that have no reviews. And it comes back to more to listing optimization, and I think there's 2 parts on the reviews. Yes, reviews are important because they show up in search results and will determine click-through rate as well as conversion rate on the detail page. The pieces that I want to suss out of that are, number one, reviews, and specifically positive reviews, tend to come as a result of a customer experience, but that can be in a variety of forms. Is it the product that they were expecting? So does the listing optimization accurately convey exactly what the customer is getting to set their expectations realistically? The second piece is, what about the customer experience? Was the product not packaged well? Was it damaged in shipping? When you have, is there a lot of manufacturer defect flipping through? Those are things that you have to continually analyze and optimize and go back and address at a root issue to get better product reviews. Once you're getting better product reviews, then you can integrate things like Feedback 5 or, product inserts that fit Amazon's TOS to ask for more product reviews. But the last thing you want to do is accelerating getting more bad product reviews.
AKA, don't sign up for Vine unless you're sure your
I was literally just about to bring up Vine as well. It's amazing that we could no longer send free products out, but then all of a sudden they bring Vine in, and we pay that little bit extra more, and then we can do everything that we were doing for free before. But I digress. Actually, going back into what you were talking about in terms of the ads, Destiny, this is probably one for between you and Will. Tom's asked us, how do you manage the balance between your top search increase and bids in PPC? If you increase the top search placement boost, would you then lower your bids to reduce your lower the costs you incur? Destiny, do you want to go first, and then Will, do you want to add on to that?
Sure.
I feel like this is a bit of a broad question, so I'm not 100% sure what they're looking for, but yes, in general, you do want to have some form of balance. What's interesting with top of search is Amazon is increasing your bid if they assume you are likely to convert top of search. So I will say Amazon's AI has gotten much, much better. We've seen it in auto campaign performance. We've seen it in sponsored display, things like that. So when you're running any type of modifiers, top of search or product detail page, you have to be very cognizant that your actual bid and your CPC are not going to be one and the same. Things like those modifiers can be very hard to predict, because if you have a $1 bid, you're going to go $1 or less. With the top of search modifier, you can go $1, or if Amazon thinks you're likely to convert, you can go more. And that's where it gets complicated when you're trying to analyze your profitability, because it's not consistently what you're bidding. It's whatever Amazon thinks is going to convert well. In general, again, we see top of search as a different form of campaign. We're strategically trying to win so we can drive the most traffic as possible. So if I'm running top of search, I know I'm probably going to take a loss on that keyword. We do not apply top of search and product detail pages at scale, which is probably different than a lot of the big providers out there. But what we found is until we're given the top of search data on the keyword level, you're usually just messing with your campaign performance, because you can't control what keywords you're top of search on or not. So run this minimally when you know exactly what you're increasing your top of search for. I would not apply top of search to a campaign of 500 keywords unless it had outstanding data that showed you converted 90 times better.
Beautiful. I think Destiny hit home on pretty much everything. Making sure you're really strategic with it. Use it, small keyword baskets, make sure they're words that you have a presence on. I think are all solid advice. My only comment to that is just incremental. So if you decide that this basket of keywords is worth it, don't just go 0 to 100%. Do 10 to 15% increments. Look at it on a weekly basis. PPC is a marathon, not a sprint. So you want to make sure that you're slowly, incrementally working up, because you might hit a tipping point where, it may double up 5, and then before you know it, you're spending $10 a click and quickly going through your budget on this campaign that was only meant to test different keywords in your ad groups. So
on the product that you only make $1 profit on as well,
yeah, exactly.
50 onto it.
Yeah.
It's easily done as well. And just on that as well, people that are setting up your ad campaigns, I say this every time we host one of these webinars: when you're setting up an ad campaign, do not call it. What was the best example that I saw today? That it was just absolutely insane. But it
campaign
was
one or test campaign.
It was this one was test campaign. The ones that I normally say are campaign 1. Make sure you've date orientated. Get the phrase out there properly, so we can then look at the data, so we can then feed you this information. Because as Destiny said, some of these questions are quite broad, and we are very much into the specifics, because that's where you win at Amazon. Because if you do everything broad stroke, there's a lot of data out there you could do, but when it comes to the finer details, when you're having that arm wrestle between Amazon basics and trying to get your own products up on there, it's these finer details that you win as well. So yeah, just from my own sanity, every time I talk about PPC, please do not call your campaign 1, because there are probably 1,001 different people that call it campaign 1s. And if you think everyone here has probably got upwards of 20 to 50 clients at any one time they're looking at, and they have to deal with campaign 1 for every single one of them, there's a reason that I'm bald. Okay, my hair used to be as long as Destiny's when I first started out in Amazon, and I will send you all the Facebook photo to prove that as well. This is where we are. Last question, because I feel that we're running out of time, and obviously I babbled for most of that, which is the last thing I want to do. everyone on the panel, do you all have much experience in terms of integrating Shopify with AWS? Has anyone got much experience into that at all? Because Scott's got a question. He's relaunching an e-commerce site with Shopify. Do we have any recommended apps for ease of management of the AWS product feeds, and how much differentiation should there be from that to your e-commerce store? I've got a few ideas, mostly because as part of the group that I work in, we have a Shopify specific store, and basically they're always on at me as to why can we not make our Amazon store look exactly like this? And I'm like, well, do you want it to look exactly like this? But that's my own beef, and we can talk about that separately. Does anyone else have anything they want to add before I go into my rant?
Any inventory juggler, you need to trust but verify, and verify over and over again. I cannot tell you the number of people that I talked to over a year that they used this program and it was supposed to make everything easy, and then it destroyed everything one day. So you need to be checking to make sure that the inventory levels are correct, and then talk to other people who've used that integration. There's a Facebook group for everything, and so talk to people who've actually used that integration. Some, not all the time, but sometimes when a salesperson is moving their mouth, they might be lying. So you want to make sure you talk to people who are actually using the product, because sometimes it's just that that salesperson hasn't actually been a seller. They don't know that this little detail is the difference between life and death. And so make sure that you're really looking into and talking to people using that integration actively at your volume, which is important.
Perfect. I do apologize, Chaya. I missed your question. It was related directly to Destiny. I meant to add it on at the last hurdle. Chaya's asked, the headline search ads that you mentioned are large now. Is that just to customize for the creatives, do we think?
Yes. The only placements that are larger are custom image creatives. And in the last 10 days, they have re-rolled out the fact that custom image is dominating top of search on desktop. It was initially rolled out for mobile, primarily on the product detail pages, which meant the value cost of creating custom imagery versus the inventory wasn't great. But yes, top of search now, it looks incredible. Love it.
So, sorry, Chaya, I do apologize. Thank you for bringing that up. And the final one from Web Trainer, what is your suggestion on placing SD and PAT SD ads on for your own products? Oh, interesting. Who do we go to first on this one? Destiny, do you want to take this and we'll work counterclockwise back from that?
I'll run through really quickly. We run, of course, product targeting for all three ad types on all of our own products. Sponsored brand shows up really well. It's a great way to cross-sell. The only quick suggestions I have is if you have similar products like vanilla protein and chocolate protein, and they're 2 different pack sizes, if you advertise your lower price point, then you may be taking sales away from your higher price point items. So that's something we're cognizant of. If you have varying lines like a beach towel versus a beach chair, that's a great opportunity to cross-sell 2 of your products. So I would do that rather than my blue blanket versus my pink blanket, if it was an option. So we just go through the assortment, figure out what's going to do best, what's basically frequently bought together of our own products. We use brand analytics, basket analysis, and things like that to really make sure we're protecting that placement. But we don't just want it to be defensive. We also want to cross-sell our products in that strategy.
Perfect. Guys, I think that was pretty comprehensive. Does anyone else anything they want to add to that? Will, Robin, Shannon?
No, actually, that made a defensive strategy as much of an offense. Get Shannon, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, again, it comes down to strategy. The 3 reasons you would do it. Number 1 is brand protection. If you bid on your own products, then you're preventing other people from getting that real estate. That can get expensive and not be cost effective. The other thing, as Destiny mentioned, is cross-selling products. In some cases, we've had products that we discontinued that are out of stock. We will advertise our new products on the old products that are out of stock, so people still see those if they are still getting sessions. And so maybe you're advertising your best-selling product on some of your other products, just so people always see your best sellers. And then the other piece is if you're trying to get the frequently bought together to show up, you may continually be showing your complementary products, advertising them together or on each other, so that Amazon will start to show the frequently bought together. Then you don't have to advertise them together as much. People say, oh, wow, this other product that Amazon, this seller sells seems to be bought in conjunction. So those would probably be a couple of the biggest reasons that you do that.
And a lot of times people just get so focused on, I want to outsell my competitor. I want to outsell my competitor. What Destiny really highlighted here and Shannon echoed is, we talked about defensive and offensive. Sometimes, you can increase your overall revenue and profitability by not they taking some of that money and focusing on trying to increase average order total by doing that cross-selling. So, you might say, well, why would I do? Sometimes brands will say, well, if they're already searching for my brand, why would I want to have those positions and, those ads running? It's because if we can increase that average order total, that can help significantly impact your bottom line. So don't just get focused on one path to victory on sponsored products and sponsored display, all of the Amazon advertising, because sometimes that's the most crowded path. And if you can find some kind of nooks and crannies like really Destiny and Shannon have highlighted, then that can help you to kind of lower your overall advertising costs.
That's fantastic. I'm so sorry, everybody. We are out of time, and I've actually gone over again, which I promised I wouldn't do this time. For everyone that's got questions about WooCommerce, Shopify integrations, please feel free to reach out to us all. But be more than happy to take this conversation further if we possibly could. All our sorry, I've just seen the comment that just came up, the Advil vodka. If that's your only takeaway today, you have done really well. That it's when you have to deal with many of these reports as we do. Yeah, vodka, sometimes you even need something stronger than that as well. Everybody, I'm going to come to you and just ask for the best way to get hold of you to follow up on this webinar. If there's any follow-up questions that people want to go to you directly. Shannon, do you want to go first?
Yeah, for questions, the platform that I'm most active on is LinkedIn, and just under Shannon Roddy. But Daniela Boltzmann and I are also starting to get more active in Clubhouse. So if you're on Clubhouse, you can follow me on Clubhouse at Shannon Roddy. We're doing events every Friday there. But the website is just marketplacesellercourses.com, and we've got courses, coaching, and resources for brands looking to scale on Amazon.
Fantastic. Robin?
So we're marketplaceblueprint.com, but if you have a question, you're like, I don't want a whole quote, I just want to ask you a question. We have a Facebook group, so you can go to marketplaceblueprint.com/Facebook, and then you'll be magically transported to our Facebook group where you can ask as many questions as you like. Sometimes it does take me a little bit of time to get to everyone, but feel free to tag me again if you don't get an answer within 24 hours.
Fantastic. Will?
Hey guys, thanks. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. And of course, if you want to get in touch, just submit an inquiry on the website. Let me know you came from the Settlely podcast, and I'm happy to carve out some time to answer specific questions.
Fantastic. And last but by no means least, Destiny?
Awesome. Well, if you guys have any specific questions, definitely feel free to shoot me a DM or check us out on YouTube, comment any questions. LinkedIn is probably where I'm most active. I post different things every single day. And then if you guys want to check us out at betterams.com, feel free to do that as well.
Fantastic. As I mentioned right at the start, everybody, thank you very much for Settlely for bringing us together. If you do want to try the Settlely for yourself, you can get a free 30-day tool. That's 3 and free. I'll get there. You think we invented the language? I should be able to use it properly. Free 30-day trial tool with it. I cannot recommend it enough for anyone that's starting out or even a seasoned professional as well. There's a link earlier on in the comments as well. Again, in terms of site integration, WooCommerce, Shopify, Magento, please feel free to reach out to me. Twitter at DanSaunders86, or as everybody else is, I'm very, very active on LinkedIn as well. That's where my life is as well. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Shannon, thank you so much for your presentation. Robin, thank you so much for the data. And Will and Destiny, so much do I appreciate your insights that I tend to just steal them and pass them off as my own to my clients as well. I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you everybody for coming, and good evening, good morning, good night, depending where you are in the world.
Bye guys.